Part 188. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1871. Well, I feel like we both will. Su Tianqian replied. I smiled and said, I hope so. Su Tianqian and I chatted for a while and then fell asleep. Early the next morning, Su Tianqian and I packed up and prepared to leave the Qin family. When Qin Fenglan saw that Su Tianqian and I were leaving, he quickly stepped forward to persuade us to stay. Brother Lu, have you and my siblings stayed here for a while? Qin Fenglan asked. I shook my head and replied, no, we still have things to do, so I won't interrupt. Qin Fenglan looked at me, his eyes suddenly turned red, and he said to me with a choked voice, Brother Lu, you must survive. Although Qin Fenglan and I have not known each other for a long time, we have been friends for many years. Okay, Brother Qin, let's leave first. If I'm still alive in the future, I will definitely come back to find you. You and I will get drunk before we stop. After that, I waved to Qin Fenglan, and then Su Tianqian and I left the Qin family. The morning in the countryside is very quiet. In addition, it snowed last night. In the snowy scenery, Yushu and Kyanghua are covered with silver, as if they are in a fairy tale world. The snowflakes are shining with crystal brilliance in the morning light, and the air is filled with a fresh smell. I stopped, helped Su Tianqian tighten his scarf, and said, Tianqian, you and I need to face the next thing together. Su Tianqian said, well, let's go to Linan Hangcheng first. When the time is right, I will take you to get the Nuwa stone. I was startled and asked, why wait until the time is right? Su Tianqian replied, when I placed the Nuwa stone in that place, my purpose was to suppress evil spirits. Now if I want to take it out, I have to wait until the winter solstice. Winter solstice? I did the math and there are still 6 days until the winter solstice. I frowned and said, isn't that your last day? Su Tianqian nodded and said, yes. It's the last day of my life. I asked, can't you take it out in advance? Su Tianqian shook his head and replied, no, it must be the winter solstice. The winter solstice belongs to water among the 5 elements. It represents the turning point from cold to warmth, and also represents new life and hope. The winter solstice is when Yang Qi begins to gradually recover, representing health, auspiciousness and good luck. If the Nuwa stone is taken out in advance, the magical power of the Nuwa stone will be damaged, and it will take a long time to recover. Time was running out, and I felt a little unsure. I expressed my worries to Su Tianqian. Su Tianqian advised me not to worry. She told me that the Nuwa stone does have the effect of prolonging life for her, a descendant of Nuwa, and that as long as she gets the Nuwa stone, her life can be extended. But she didn't know how long her life would last. When I saw Su Tianqian say this, I didn't say anything else. I am now at the end of my rope and can only place my last hope on the Nuwa stone. I just hope the Nuwa stone actually works. Afterwards, we boarded the train to Hangzhou. Su Tianqian and I took the high-speed train to Hangzhou in half a day. Hangzhou was known as Linan, Qiantang, and Wulin in ancient times and was one of the 6 ancient capitals. Westlake is here. After getting off the train, Su Tianqian and I found a hotel to stay. I asked Su Tianqian to take me to the place where Nuwa stone is to have a look. But Su Tianqian told me there was no rush and he would take me there later. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1872. In the evening, Su Tianqian and I found a restaurant for dinner. After eating, Su Tianqian will take me to take a look at the West Lake. I have been talking to Su Tianqian about taking me to the place where the Nuwa stone is placed. But Su Tianqian didn't take this matter to heart at all. In her words, the Nuwa stone is placed there and no one can take it away. The time has not come yet. We can't see it or take it away even if we go now. I talked with her for a long time before Su Tianqian agreed to go to West Lake first and then take me to the location of Nuwa Stone. West Lake, also known as Qiantang Lake and West Lake. This place does not require too much ink to introduce. If I had to introduce it, it would be more appropriate to use an ancient poem to describe it. The clear water is beautiful when the water is shining, but the mountains are also strange when the sky is covered with rain. If you want to compare West Lake to Zaizi, it is always appropriate to use light or thick. There are not many people in West Lake in winter. Moreover, it is still night, and there are even fewer people by the West Lake. Su Tianqian and I walked beside the West Lake. The climate here is warmer than in the north, but the wind is also biting. Su Tianqian and I found a bench and sat down. I looked at the calm lake and said, "Tianqian, why do you have to come to West Lake?" Su Tianqian leaned on my shoulder and said, "I have been to West Lake before, but it was summer at that time. The scenery of West Lake at that time was so beautiful that I will never forget it, so I wanted to take you to take a look." I chuckled and said, "Tianqian, do you still remember the agreement you made with me?" Su Tianqian nodded and said, "Remember, of course, remember, travel around the world. Since we want to travel around the world, let's start from China. After we have seen all the places in China, we will go abroad." Su Tianqian began to enjoy a bright future with me. Every place has its own beauty and food. I want to do anything with you. As long as you are by my side, even just sitting quietly like this is the happiest moment in my life. Matter. Seeing Su Tianxian's cheerful expression, I felt inexplicably sad. What she said was what I wanted to say to her, and what I expected in my heart. But I'm afraid there is no way to achieve these things. However, I was not disappointed. Instead, I asked Su Tianqian, "Then we are going to travel around the world. What will happen to the children?" Su Tianqian was startled and immediately replied, "Of course I will take him with me. But if the child goes with us, it will disturb our world of two." Su Tianqian, what should we do? I thought about it and said, "Of course I need someone to take care of me." Su Tianqian stretched out his hand and tapped my forehead angrily, saying, "Are you such a father? If you are like this, I will not give birth to your child." I hugged Su Tianqian and said, "No, no, 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 I'm kidding." Su Tianqian nestled in my arms and pointed to the glowing tower not far away and asked, "Xiao Su, do you know what kind of tower that is?" I looked in the direction Su Tianqian pointed and said, "Isn't that Lifeng Pagoda?" Su Tianqian said quietly, "The Nuwa stone is right there." When I heard this, I was slightly startled and asked, "Why is the Nuwa stone in Lifeng Pagoda?" Su Tianqian explained, "Lifeng Tower is actually a monster-suppressing tower. When I came here 8 years ago, Lifeng Tower had become loose. If the seal was not reinforced, the monsters under the tower would escape." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1873. Lifeng Pagoda is no stranger to Chinese people. It is known to Chinese people as the legend of White Snake. The legend of White Snake tells the tortuous love story between the snake spirit Bai Suhen and the human Su Xian. The story takes place during the Song dynasty. Bai Suhen has practiced spiritual practice for thousands of years. In order to repay Su Xian for saving her life in her previous life, she decided to become a human and marry him. After marriage, Bai Suhen and Xiaoqing lived together in the world. However, due to the unprovoked interference of monk Faihe, a series of tragedies occurred. There are many endings to the legend of White Snake. In one of them, Bai Suhen was imprisoned in Lifeng Pagoda, while Su Xian was ordained as a monk, both internally and externally, and eventually Lifeng Pagoda collapsed. There is another story. Bai Suhen's son grew up and won the first prize, went to the pagoda to sacrifice his mother, rescued her mother, and reunited the whole family. Several people settled their differences with Fahe and became immortals. There are other endings besides these two, so I won't describe them one by one here. Regardless of whether it is a good ending or a bad ending, it casts a mysterious veil on this Lifeng Tower. I looked at Lifeng Pagoda not far away and asked, Tianxian, is Bai Suhen really suppressed under Lifeng Pagoda? Su Tianxian shook his head and said, no. The legend of White Snake is a legend. I don't know whether Bai Suhen exists or not. If it existed, I think she would have escaped long ago. Lifeng Pagoda has existed for thousands of years and has collapsed 3 times. One was destroyed by war in the second year of Suanhe in the northern Song dynasty, and the other was destroyed by war during the Jiaqing period of the Ming dynasty, Bingxian, which refers to the disaster of burning and destruction due to war. The last time was on September 25, 1924. As Su Tianxian said, if Bai Suhen was really suppressed under the tower and Lifeng Tower collapsed 3 times, she would have escaped long ago. Su Tianxian looked at me and said, actually, the reason why Lifeng Tower can really suppress monsters is the magic circle under my tower. However, the collapse of Lifeng Tower will damage the magic circle, and then the monsters under the tower will run out. However, every time Lifeng Tower collapses, capable people and strangers will come here to subjugate demons and strengthen the seal. When I came last time, although Lifeng Tower did not collapse, the seal was loose. Now with the suppression of Nuwa Stone, the monsters under the tower can't make any waves? After hearing this, I nodded and asked, then after we take away the Nuwa Stone, will the seal of Lifeng Pagoda be loosened? Yes or no? If the seal is really loose, you and I can just strengthen the seal with our own hands. It won't affect anything. However, the Nuwa Stone must be taken out on the winter solstice. If it is taken out earlier, not only will the seal loosen, but the Nuwa Stone will also be affected. Su Tianxian said with a solemn expression. I stood up and said, Tianxian, let's go shopping, then go back and rest for a night, and go to Lifeng Pagoda tomorrow to see what's going on. Su Tianxian hummed, and then started walking along the entire West Lake with me. The two of us also made a boat and took a lap on the lake. Su Tianxian originally wanted to go to the broken bridge in the residual snow, but it was too late, so the two of us could only wait until tomorrow. Afterwards, we both returned to the hotel. Simply tidy up and prepare to rest. Just when I wanted to close my eyes and sleep, my eyes suddenly fell into darkness. I was shocked. Could it be that I am also blind in my right eye? I didn't dare to say anything, just took a deep breath. The darkness in front of me still hasn't dissipated. Just when I was desperate, Su Tianxuan's voice rang in my ears. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1874. Xiao Su, what's wrong with you? Why are you looking so pale and sweating? Su Tianxuan's voice was like a ray of light in the darkness, and I quickly moved towards the direction where Su Tianxuan's voice came from. Su Tianxian quickly held my hand and said, Xiao Su, what's wrong with you? I said with a trembling voice, Tianxian, I seem to be blind in my right eye. As soon as these words came out, Su Tianxian immediately fell into silence. After Su Tianxian was silent for a while, he said, Don't worry, open your eyes wide, I'll take a look. I nodded. Su Tianxian gently opened the lid of my right eye and looked carefully. At this time, my right eye regained some light, but my vision was still blurry. Xiao Su, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with your right eye. I took a deep breath and slowly closed my eyes, gathering the dragon energy in my body to my right eye. When I opened my right eye again, I could finally see clearly. I smiled bitterly at Su Tianqian and said, it seems that I am not far from blindness in this eye. Although my right eye was not blind this time, it also sounded a wake-up call for me. Maybe at some point, I will suddenly lose sight in my right eye. Xiao Su, don't be so pessimistic. Don't worry about your 5 senses and limbs. I have a way to help you solve it. I looked at Su Tianqian in confusion and asked, what can you do? What can you do? Xiao Su, don't ask. Even if you ask me, I won't tell you. You will know when the time comes. I understand Su Tianxuan's temperament. Since she refuses to tell me, she won't tell me no matter how much I ask her. Okay, Xiao Su, have a good rest. Let's go to Lifeng Pagoda tomorrow. Su Tianqian said to me softly. I nodded, lay on the bed and fell asleep. The next morning, I slept until 9:30 before getting up. I don't know why, but I feel like my head is heavy. This may be a precursor to the disappearance of the 5 senses and limbs. I looked around and found that Su Tianqian was not in the room. This made me frown. Where did Su Tianqian go? Just when I was getting dressed and wanted to go out to look for Su Tianqian, the door to the room was suddenly pushed open. Su Tianqian walked in carrying breakfast. Tianqian, what have you done? Su Tianqian raised the breakfast in his hand and said, I'm going to buy you breakfast. I felt warm in my heart, and then I sat down at the dining table with Su Tianqian to have breakfast. After breakfast, Su Tianqian and I went to Lifeng Pagoda. Lifeng Pagoda is a scenic spot, and you must buy a ticket if you want to enter. Su Tianqian and I bought tickets at the ticket office and entered Lifeng Pagoda. Lifeng Pagoda, originally named Huangfei Pagoda, also known as Ziguan Brick Pagoda, is one of the 9 famous pagodas in China and the first colored bronze pagoda. The main body of Lifeng Pagoda is a pavilion-style tower imitating the Tang and Song dynasties. Each floor is covered with copper tiles, with copper brackets at the corners and cornices. In addition, Lifeng Pagoda has a total of 8 floors. From bottom to top, they are the base floor, the second floor of the base, the bottom floor, the dark floor, the second floor, the third floor, the fourth floor, and the fifth floor. Inside Lifeng Pagoda, it is very spectacular with its double eaves and flying roofs and open windows. Su Tianqian took me around Lifeng Pagoda, and then led me to the Lifeng Pagoda Underground Palace. The Lifeng Pagoda Underground Palace is covered by a large glass cover, and tourists can visit through the glass. The underground palace can only be visited but not entered, but through the glass cover, I can feel the strong evil spirit exuding under the underground palace. Moreover, in addition to the demonic energy, I can also detect the fluctuations of the magic circle. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1875. I ask Su Tianqian next to me, Tianqian, is it possible that this underground palace is the place where demons are sealed? Su Tianqian replied, yes, there is another space under the underground palace of Lifeng Pagoda. That space is where the demons are sealed. I asked, then how do we get in? Su Tianqian explained, the Lifeng Pagoda you see now was actually built later. The real Lifeng Pagoda is actually dilapidated. There has been a big difference between the current Lifeng Pagoda and the original Lifeng Pagoda. I think to enter the underground palace, you must enter from somewhere else. There is a passage specially set aside by the people who built this tower. Very few people in this world know about it. Then let's go take a look now. Su Tianqian shook his head and said, it's daytime now and there are a lot of tourists. I'll take you there when there are fewer people at night. Well, that's all it can do now. Su Tianqian and I walked around the Lifeng Pagoda again and then left. It was still some time before dark, so I asked Su Tianqian if there was anywhere he wanted to visit. There are many scenic spots in Hangzhou, some are very close to the city, and some are far away from the city. Su Tianqian thought for a while and said, how about we go to Lingyan Temple? Okay, then let's go to Lingyan Temple. Later, I took Su Tianqian to Lingyan Temple. Then went to other places. The time will soon come at night. There are mountains near Lifeng Pagoda. There are not many tourists at night. I don't even know what this mountain is called. Anyway, it is very close to Lifeng Pagoda. Su Tianqian led me to a dead tree. Su Tianqian was seen making secrets with both hands and mumbling words. As Su Tianqian recited the mantra, the dead tree miraculously came back to life. The originally dry tree trunk now became extremely thick, and the branches were also covered with green leaves. You must know that it is winter now and everything is depressed. This green tree is very eye-catching among the mountains and fields. Immediately afterwards, Su Tianqian stepped forward and gently placed his palm on the tree trunk. Just when I was wondering what Su Tianqian was doing, I suddenly heard a loud bang from behind. I looked back and saw that the boulder that was just behind me had moved to the side, and a bottomless passage came into view. Su Tianqian came to my side and said, "Let's go." I nodded and followed Su Tianqian into the passage. The passage is dark and long, and it goes downward slowly. Judging from the direction of the passage, it should lead directly to the bottom of Lifeng Pagoda. After walking for about 5 minutes, a stone door appeared in front of me. Su Tianqian pointed to the stone gate and said, "The Nuwa stone is behind here." I was slightly startled, reached out and touched the stone door, and asked, "Tianqian, how should we open this stone door?" This stone door is very heavy and thick, and it is also carved with various spells to suppress demons. Su Tianqian replied, "You can't go in now because the time has not come yet. If you go in now, I'm afraid there will be trouble. The reason why I brought you here is to reassure you." After hearing what Su Tianqian said, I scratched my head in embarrassment and said, "I am really worried. I always think you are lying to me." Su Tianqian rolled his eyes and ignored me, turning around and going back along the passage from where I came. I followed Su Tianqian and left together. After we left the passage, we restored everything to the original state and returned to the hotel. End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1876. Su Tianxuan's time is running out. But if you want to get the Nuwa stone, you have to wait until the winter solstice. Therefore, Su Tianqian and I could only stay in Hangzhou. In the last few days of Su Tianxuan's life, we traveled all over Hangzhou. We had a great time these days. Su Tianqian always has a faint smile on his face. I think these days are the happiest moments in my life. One day before the winter solstice, Su Tianqian suddenly fell into a coma. That morning I was anxious and exhausted. I used all the ways I could think of to wake up Su Tianqian. But it was no use, just when I decided to carry Su Tianqian to the Lifeng Pagoda. Su Tianqian opened his eyes faintly. "Xiao Su." Su Tianqian called softly. I looked surprised and asked quickly, "Tianqian, don't be afraid, tomorrow is the winter solstice. I will take you to get the Nuwa stone tonight. As long as you can get the Nuwa stone, you can live. When I finish everything, I will take you to travel through thousands of rivers and mountains." Seeing how anxious I was, Su Tianqian raised the corners of his mouth and forced a smile. "Idiot, I'm fine. My current situation is normal. After all, the time is up, my soul is about to disperse." I grabbed Su Tianxuan's hand and couldn't stop my tears from falling. "Tianqian, it's okay. Everything will pass and everything will get better." Su Tianqian reached out his hand and gently wiped away the tears from the corners of my eyes. "Well, everything will pass and everything will get better." Su Tianxuan's face was pale and her words were weak. Seeing her like this made me feel extremely sad. Xiaosu, it seems you haven't seen me in my wedding dress yet. Su Tianxian said weakly. Well, I haven't seen it yet, so you must hold on and wait for tonight. Before I finished speaking, I was interrupted by Su Tianxian. I want to try on a wedding dress. I was slightly startled and said quickly, but Tianxian, your body. Su Tianxian smiled and said, I'm fine. I looked into Su Tianxuan's eyes, and I saw prayer in her eyes. Okay, I'll take you there now. Su Tianxian struggled to sit up and walk towards the bathroom. Tianxian, aren't you going to try on wedding dresses? Su Tianxian looked back at me and smiled. Yes, but I'm so haggard. I just need to tidy up to make myself look more energetic. I nodded. Su Tianxian simply tidied up, and the two of us set off to the bridal shop. It was already sunset when Su Tianxian and I went out. When we both arrived at the bridal shop, snowflakes suddenly started to fall in the sky. Lu Su, Hang Chang, it's snowing. I looked at the snowflakes in the sky and said, yes, it's snowing. Su Tianxian stretched out his hand to gently catch the snowflakes, then looked back with a smile and said, I want to break the bridge later. Okay, I'll go with you. I took Su Tianxuan's hand and entered the bridal shop. The air conditioner in the bridal shop was turned on very warmly, but Su Tianxuan's hands were cold. When the clerk saw a customer coming to the door, he hurriedly greeted him. Under the introduction of the clerk, Su Tianxian chose a wedding dress and then went to the fitting room. I sat on the sofa by the floor-to-ceiling window and looked at the snowy scene outside. My heart was very panicked. Su Tianxian is now exhausted, and I can only place all my hopes on Nuwa Stone. If Nuwa Stone is useless, what should I do? Did you watch Su Tianxian disappear before my eyes? End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1877. I cannot accept this outcome. So, I can only hold on to my last hope. Just when I was thinking wildly, Su Tianxian walked out of the fitting room wearing a snow-white wedding dress. The moment Su Tianxian appeared, the entire bridal shop fell into silence. The wedding dress is as white as snow, as light as clouds, like angel wings, soft and elegant. Under the light, the wedding dress shines with a dreamlike luster, and its beauty makes people unable to help but stop for it. And Su Tianxian was so beautiful in her wedding dress that her appearance seemed to make all the colors in the world lose their color. Su Tianxian came to me slowly and asked, Xiao Su, do you look good? I looked at Su Tianxian and my body trembled slightly. I stood up, gently took Su Tianxuan's hand and said, it's beautiful. Su Tianxian smiled and said, putting on a wedding dress for you is something I have always looked forward to, and now I finally got my wish. I reached out my hand and gently touched Su Tianxuan's cheek and said, what you are thinking about is what I have always expected. Su Tianxian pulled me to the wardrobe. She chose a suit for me, and then said to me, Xiao Su, put this dress on, I also want to see how you look in a suit. I took the suit and nodded. I came to the fitting room and quickly changed my clothes. When Su Tianxian saw me, she was stunned on the spot. What's wrong? Tianxian, do I look ugly in a suit? Tears rolled in Su Tianxuan's eyes. She shook her head at me and said, no. Xiao Su, you look really handsome in a suit. I wiped away the tears from the corners of Su Tianxuan's eyes and asked, why are you crying if you look good? I thought I made you ugly. Su Tianxian was amused by my words. No. I just thought of something. While Su Tianxian and I were talking, the clerk came over. The clerk told Su Tianxian and I that she had never seen a couple that matched Su Tianxian and me so well, so she wanted to take a photo of Su Tianxian and me. I agreed to this request without even thinking about it. Although this is not a wedding photo, it fulfills a dream in my heart. The clerk took a camera and took a photo of Su Tianqian and me. Su Tianqian held my hand and rested his head on my shoulder. The flash flashed, the picture was frozen, and the clerk handed me the camera. I glanced at the image on the camera screen. Su Tianqian is beautiful, with a happy smile on her face. Later, the clerk took the camera to develop the photos. I bought a wedding dress and a suit. 10 minutes later the clerk handed the photo to me and Su Tianqian. I stored my wedding dress and suit in the store. Because Su Tianqian and I are going to marry Nuwashi later, it is somewhat inconvenient to carry shopping bags. Su Tianqian and I left the bridal shop and walked towards the broken bridge of the West Lake. At 8 o'clock in the evening, Su Tianqian and I came to the broken bridge of the West Lake. There are many people on the broken bridge. They all come here to see the snow scenery. Lifeng Pagoda is not far away and can be seen from Broken Bridge. Su Tianqian and I were sitting on the bench. Su Tianqian suddenly said to me, "Xiao Su, wait until 12 o'clock in the morning, and we will set off to get the Nuwa stone." "Good," I replied. In this way, Su Tianqian and I sat on the bench admiring the snow scenery, waiting for the arrival of 12 o'clock in the morning. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1878. People were coming and going on the broken bridge, and snowflakes were flying in the sky. The remaining snow on the broken bridge is a famous scene on the West Lake. It is famous for the bridge deck looming on the lake surface from a distance when it snows in winter. I didn't expect to encounter such beautiful scenery this time in Hangzhou. Of course, you can't see this beautiful scenery from the bridge. You have to go to Gemstone Mountain to look south. At that time, you will see the West Lake covered with snow, and the white embankment stretches across the snow-covered willows and peach trees. The arch surface of the broken stone bridge is unobstructed, and the ice and snow melt in the sun, revealing the mottled bridge railings, while both ends of the bridge are still covered by white snow. Su Tianqian leaned on my shoulder and weakly told me one thing after another. I didn't reply, I just sat and listened patiently. Time passed by minute, and soon it was 11:30 at night. Because it was dark, there were obviously fewer people on the broken bridge. There are still snowflakes in the sky. After another 15 minutes, I stood up and said to Su Tianqian, "Tianqian, it's almost time, let's go." Su Tianqian looked up at me weakly and said weakly, "Xiao Su, I have no strength, can you carry me?" I nodded and said, "Okay." I knelt down and carried Su Tianqian on my back, and we walked along the broken bridge towards Lifeng Pagoda. Snowflakes fell on my shoulders. Su Tianqian hugged me tightly and said softly, "Xiao Su, it's so cold." "Tianqian, just hold on, you will be fine when we get the Nuwa stone." Su Tianqian hummed softly. I carried Su Tianqian on my back and walked a certain distance, and Su Tianqian whispered in my ear, "Xiao Su, I also want to tell you something." "You say it and I listen." Su Tianxian's weak voice rang in my ears. "Xiao Su, knowing you is the luckiest thing that has happened to me, Su Tianqian, in my life. Don't worry or be afraid in the days without me, and don't bury those painful memories deep in your heart. Let the past go by. There is nothing worth cherishing. Also, after I leave you, you must eat well and don't miss 3 meals a day, even if I am not the one cooking." I listened to what Su Tianqian said and said, "Tianqian, don't say such things, you will not leave me." "No, Xiao Su, don't talk, just listen to me." Su Tianxian's voice was very low, and her body trembled slightly behind me. I hummed and said no more words. Su Tianqian said a lot in my ears. These words are all final instructions. I didn't refute, just listened quietly. Tears had long since slipped from the corners of my eyes and scattered in the air with the wind. When we reached the mountainside, Su Tianqian suddenly said to me, "Xiao Su, put me down first and take a rest first." I replied, "It's okay, I'm not tired. Su Tianqian was silent for a long time, and then said with a choked voice, Xiao Su, I'm sorry, I lied to you again. Hearing these words, I stopped and my body stiffened. I quickly said, what nonsense are you talking about? Didn't you tell me before? You won't lie to me again. But, I broke my promise this time. Su Tianxuan's next words made me feel like I had fallen into an ice cave. Actually, the Nuwa stone has always been on my body. My brain buzzed, and my whole body felt like it was struck by lightning. No. No, you must be lying to me. Isn't the Nuwa stone under the Lifeng Pagoda? End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1879. Su Tianxuan's voice choked up as he said, Xiao Su, listen to me. The Nuwa stone has always been on my body. Everything I said before was a lie to you. The Nuwa stone cannot extend my life. The reason why I do this is just to spend my last days with you peacefully and peacefully. Time. I put Su Tianqian down and kept shaking my head. No. I don't believe it. You are a descendant of Nuwa. How could the Nuwa stone not be able to help you survive? Su Tianqian slowly took out a colorful stone from his pocket. Xiao Su, this is the Nuwa stone. I looked at the Nuwa stone in Su Tianxuan's hand. At this moment, my heart felt like it was hit by a heavy hammer, and every beat was filled with tearing pain. This kind of grief is so deep and unbearable that it seems like even the soul has been cut into pieces. I asked with a trembling voice, why did you lie to me? Su Tianqian lowered his eyes and said, since I can't accompany you to walk the rest of the way, I can only let you accompany me to walk the rest of the way. I stepped forward in a panic and grabbed Su Tianxuan's arm, saying, Tianqian, don't be anxious, don't be anxious. There must be another way. There must be another way. Although I am trying to persuade Su Tianqian not to worry. But the one who is really worried is me. Let me think about it, please let me think about it. I was already incoherent, and even when I spoke, I was stumbling and going crazy. That's right. Exchange my life for my life. I will exchange my life for yours. Su Tianqian shook his head at me and said, Xiao Su, there is no other way. This is my ending. No. I don't accept it. I'd rather die by myself. I'm not willing to watch you disappear before my eyes. I roared at Su Tianqian. Su Tianxuan's tears couldn't stop falling. Xiao Su, why am I not like this? Su Tianxuan's delicate body trembled slightly, and she begged, Xiao Su, I'm so cold now, can you hug me? I reached out and held Su Tianqian in my arms. Tianqian, you can't leave me, you really can't leave me. Without you, I don't know what the point of living is. Su Tianqian was also very sad, but she still spoke to comfort me. Yes, Xiao Su, you have to live because... Su Tianxuan's eyes suddenly became gentle. Because we have a daughter. When I heard this, I looked at Su Tianqian blankly. Really, really? Su Tianqian nodded and said, really, I was pregnant when you and I separated last time. The reason why I left was because of our daughter. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Su Tianqian smiled brightly. Because I want to surprise you. I want to give you a reason to live. I know that after I leave, you will go with me, but how can I let you go with me? You have to live, even if it's not for me, you have to live for our daughter. Su Tianxuan's voice suddenly choked up. Because of her, because she no longer has her mother, she can't live without her father. I hugged Su Tianqian tightly and cried until I couldn't stop crying. Tianqian, why are you doing this? Why on earth? Su Tianqian wiped my tears with difficulty. Xiao Su, I'm sorry. I know I'm very selfish. You are the person I love most. Only in this way can you have hope of living. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1880. At this moment, my emotions really collapsed. I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do. Emotions such as powerlessness, despair, and sadness filled my heart. Just like the howling night wind, like the snowflakes flying all over the sky, cold and desolate. Xiao Su, you haven't met our daughter yet, have you? Her name is Lu Ling. She is very cute. Her eyebrows look like mine, and her lips and nose are like yours. I haven't seen her for half a year. I miss her very much, but I will never have the chance to see her again. I hugged Su Tianqian tightly. Her breath is weakening, her body temperature is dropping, and her life is slowly fading away. By the way, I forgot to tell you, my daughter is at Fengluan's place now. My pupils trembled slightly. Fengluan. Su Tianqian nodded and said, well, Longji is Fengluan. She is not dead. Not only her, Cai Dai and Huaxiu will also come back to you. Tianqian you. Su Tianqian smiled at me and said, when Cai Dai dissipated, I protected her soul and then placed her in a safe place. I believe that in a few years, she will come back. Also, that day in the underworld, I used forbidden magic to protect Huaxiu's memory and body, and then I used my heart's blood to nourish Huaxiu's body. She will wake up, it's just a matter of time. But, Hangxuan, I can't help you bring her back. You can only do this. At this moment, I realized how much Su Tianqian had done secretly to me. Tianqian, why are you doing this? Su Tianqian raised his eyes to the sky and said quietly, I don't want to see you sad, and I don't want you to be alone after I leave. I grabbed Su Tianxuan's arm and asked, what about you? Have you ever thought about what would happen if I lost you? You considered everyone and everything, except yourself. Su Tianqian looked at me and said, Xiao Su. You are my destiny, you are my everything, you are my only love. You are happy, I am happy, you are sad, I am sad too. Even if things change and time passes, I will only love you, you know. I am her destiny, her everything, her only love. Things have changed, but she will always love me. I choked up and said to Su Tianqian, I know. I know everything. Seeing that I kept crying, Su Tianqian scolded me, Xiao Su, stop crying, and say goodbye to me properly. However, there are thousands of rivers and mountains, and I don't have the chance to watch it with you. So, you can only go alone and watch the green mountains, green water, sunrise, sunset. After all, I watched Su Tianqian disappear before my eyes. I can't accept it, nor am I willing to accept it. But all this cannot be changed. Xiao Su, can you promise me? I replied in a hoarse voice, I promise you. Su Tianqian smiled. Her smile was not sad, but calm and free. Well, I really don't want to leave. I still have a lot of things I haven't done yet. I haven't stayed with you forever, I haven't grown old with you yet, I haven't seen you in high spirits yet. Apart from you, the one I can't let go of the most is Lu Ling. I want to grow up with her, want to hear her call me mom, want to teach her to read and write. When Su Tianqian said this, he could not suppress the emotions in his heart and burst into tears. End of chapter.